So you moved with your husband to the Congo, with your family generally?
Yeah.
I mean, to Cameroon.
To Cameroon,
Yes.
yes. So we were together there. At that time, I had 2 children. My elder daughter, was born. And I did consular work in Cameroon. We had a consular general. We had a big community of French citizens, some of them having been in the country for many years, getting old with their own challenges. We had also a few crooks coming around, so I had to deal with that.
Yeah.
I had to visit the prisons.
Oh.
When you are consul, you have to visit your own citizen in prison.
Yes. You take care of your people wherever.
Yeah. So it's part of the job. So
Yes.
we had a few of them, so it was quite a human experience, I would say.
Yeah.
But you know what? I was not. It was not my choice to do consular work, but I had to adapt because of this double career and so on.
Okay.
And I did this. I was at the beginning of a career, but it brought me a lot in terms of experience, the way to handle some difficult situations, to have some diplomatic talks with the police, and I think that later on, as an ambassador, it was an asset.
Yeah.
It was an asset.
Of experience.
Yeah.
So how was it then? So you're raising a family, newly married, or at least the marriage is very young, and you have small babies, and you're working at the embassy in this role. How are you able to juggle?
I think I will tell you that it's easier in Africa than it is in Europe.
Oh, is it?
Because you get easily some help. I mean, you can have a nanny, you can have a cook, you can have and in Europe it's much more difficult. You can have it, but it's much more difficult, also much more expensive. Yeah. So I felt Africa was the right place to be a young mother with small kids.
Moving from one posting to another in different countries, I think, so to speak. Does it mean like you're given more responsibilities, or do you move in the same position?
No, you at the beginning you have to learn.
Right.
So you start as number 3, number 4, depending on the size of the chancery. But then progressively you progress in the hierarchy. You can ask for more responsibilities, and you also have to alternate between stays outside in embassies and stays in the ministry, obviously, because you have also to learn the job in the ministry.
Oh,
so I spent, when I came back from Cameroon, I spent quite a few years in the ministry before being sent again in an embassy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the difference with being sent outside and working on home soil?
It's very different because in the ministry you are less exposed to, I would say, to the outside world, but you're more on the files, on certain issues, interacting with the embassies. I did a lot of work on economic issues, so with the French business community. I did a lot also on the multilateral side with the UN, on human rights, on environmental issues. And on the multilateral, you are very much in interaction with our permanent representation in New York, in Geneva, in Nairobi. And so you are trying to answer their needs. And you are also synthesizing the instruction when there is a special issue. Right. So it's very much a job of coordination of position with the different ministries, the different departments in the ministry to formalize a position that our representation will support in these meetings or with the government.
So you started by saying that it was always a dream to serve. You said that, and that really struck me, because a lot of people have different motives for wanting to do this job, but for you it was about serving. Why is that so special to you?
I mean, it's very emotional. Even when you see your flag, you are in a ceremony, you have your anthem, and I think it's you are representing France as a whole, but you are what you say is the representation of what the Président de la République, the French president, would like you to say.
When you were done with serving, well, it can never be done, but when the tenure at head office now back in France was done, where were you sent?
After that, I was sent to Bangkok, Thailand, to Asia. So it was my only posting outside Africa.
Yes.
And it was very interesting because, as you said, I have more responsibilities. I started with multilateral work and then became the deputy ambassador, and it was a very interesting experience.
Yes. The challenges you have faced in your journey, and we'll come to Nairobi, so I want us to go around wherever you have served. But the challenges you have faced in your roles, in your different roles, what have those been? Starting with the Congo, by the way.
I think the Congo for me was really to discover the diplomatic jobs and some of the codes, because it's indeed an environment where there are some codes, habits. The protocol is a key also. So I had to learn. Obviously, it was my first time in an embassy. I'm not from my parents are not from this background, so it was new. And then what I enjoy a lot is to analyze and report, because at that time we were more writing. We were writing what we call depeche, or nowadays, because of this continuous movement with email, so you write small bits, but it was different, and I enjoyed writing a lot. It's part of the background of a diplomat, and yes, and I must say the challenge was maybe for a very young girl to be looked as a diplomat, and because when you start, you are first secretary of the embassy. I remember, and also to have people understand that you are not the secretary of the ambassador, but you are the political advisor of the ambassador.
Yes.
And it happened me once with a visit of our president, Jacques Chirac. At the time, he was not the president; he was the mayor of Paris, and my ambassador had asked me to write his speech. He had to deliver a speech to the. I went to him and introduced myself, and I explained that I contributed to his speech, and I said, "Thank you for typing very well my speech." So I said, "No, I didn't type your speech. I wrote it." But it was all the times where it was a little bit unusual to have women in the diplomacy, especially. We had very few women ambassadors. Now it has improved a lot. We have almost 1/3 of women ambassador, and we are pushing to achieve parity.
Yes.
But to achieve parity, you have also to have the right people to promote.
Yes.
But at that time, it was a little bit of a challenge. But at the same time, you can play it as an advantage. I mean, you can also have some kind of distinction because we are women, so you are known, and we can play with it. But no, it was no. I didn't. The issue of the family was quite of a challenge, because I explained to you that especially when you are in Paris, it's difficult to get some help. The working hours in the ministry are quite heavy, quite long. Then you are supposed to be available at any time. It's not, and at that time it was not seen as a very positive to put your family obligation as a motive to say, sorry, I cannot have this meeting at 7 o'clock in the evening. Now that we have an association in the ministry, women, but also a few men who are supportive to explain that. I mean, if the ministry wants to have a good recruitment, attract people, they have also to take into account these family obligations, which are both in Paris, but also when you are abroad, you have to take your children, find a school, find a job for your spouse. And now it has become an issue which is taken into account. It's easier. But it was one of the main challenges I felt, because for the rest, I felt very happy with what I did. I was interested. It's a job where you can switch from consular work to multilateral work. So you have different kind of jobs at the same time, and that was one of the attractiveness of this ministry, was to be able to change, not to stay
At
in
the
the
same
on the
place.
same place,
Yes.
on the same issues. It depends on your personality, but I'm
Yes.
more of a person that likes variety and changing and challenges.